Hello, here I am. I am sorry I didn't announce this a little bit sooner, but you know how it goes, guys. Let me just make sure this is, all right. So I am back from, I am back from Disclosure Con in Pine Top, Arizona, and that was really awesome. I'll talk about that more towards the end, but I wanted to go through all of the headlines and everything. Hi guys. That I have come across. So this will be in no particular order. I mean, it'll be in the order of the links that I put below. Hi. So you can follow along with me, but I was just trying to, I was in a complete bubble this weekend because I didn't really have service and I was so busy and I was doing fun things. So I just didn't even look at the news or what was really going on. So I've just kind of thrown a bunch of this stuff together. I'm going to go through it all really quickly. Hi. And then we will get into some of the other stuff. And hi guys. Okay, so the first thing we have is John Durham. He's the U.S. attorney that has been tasked with reviewing the origins of the counterintelligence investigation into Trump's campaign and Russia. So he has expanded his investigation and is adding agents and resources, according to multiple senior admin officials. The timeline has now grown from the beginning of the probe through the election and now includes post-election timeline, I think up into spring of 2017. I think it was May of 2017, when Mueller was named special counsel. So Durham and Barr have spoken with multiple officials in the UK, Australia, and Italy to determine if the intelligence was used to spy on civilians, which would be an absolute abuse of power. And so we are hearing now that they're adding more agents and resources to this investigation, which makes it seem like they are finding something, does it not? And remember, you know, there are lots of people implicated in this, but one of the things that I wanted to point out, because I know that a lot of us go back and forth on Rod Rosenstein and whether he's a white hat, black hat, gray hat, but do remember that he was accused of offering to wear a wire to secretly record the president. So these are allegations he's denied, but anyway, I don't think I put a link for this and I don't think I had it. I think I just was making notes as I was going through my stuff. But another thing, you guys can find it easily, the White House counsel has written a letter to the House Democrats formally announcing that Trump will not be cooperating with their unconstitutional inquiry. So this impeachment inquiry, which I am actually going to skip ahead because this goes along with it. Nancy Pelosi, if I can find it, is basically, you know, dragging her feet now. It just seems like they don't really want this to become an official thing because they know they have no ground to stand on. So we'll get to that. I don't want to scroll and lose my train of thought. We'll get there eventually. So the next thing is that I came across a tweet where AOC, our girlfriend, says that we need to abolish prisons. Yes. She said, quote, "A cage is a cage is a cage, and humans don't belong in them." I've got news for you. If you hurt children on purpose, there are many reasons why people do belong in cages, at the very best. It should be the best thing that they should hope for. But, yeah, she's just off the rails, I guess. Joe DeGenova, I can never say his last, DeGenova, there we go, Joe DeGenova. I heard him last night call her an incandescent ignoramus, and I LOL'd. Anyway, so she kind of went on this tweeting tirade trying to back up what she was talking about, but she's essentially still saying the same thing, so it doesn't matter. She doesn't believe that people should be incarcerated. And it's interesting because we're seeing Trump work on prison reform. So he is getting these people out of prison. And while I do agree that there are people that are incarcerated that shouldn't be, low-level drug offenders or people, you know, who get busted with drugs in their personal use are not selling them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, should not be in prison for these long, you know, a long amount of time. But then we've got murderers and rapists that are walking the streets. So we just need prison reform. It is not the answer to abolish prisons and just let all of these people go free. She is a incandescent ignoramus. So 8chan news. So 8chan the other day posted on Twitter this graphic, this little short video of a graphic that just said 8kun, K-U-N. So I guess Chan and kun are both Japanese honorific suffixes. You guys can look more into that. I was finding a bunch of different, you know, it's almost like kun is an upgrade to Chan, so that's a cute little play on words. But my friend pointed this out to me, and I thought it was pretty interesting, that when they posted the graphic, first of all, the video has a lot of really cool symbolism. One is that, you know, it's the snake, it's the infinity thing that we're used to seeing, and there's on the lower half, you can see that it looks like they kind of turned it into a Q. And in part of it, it looks kind of like I forgot the name of it, but the "Don't Tread on Me" flag with the snake. And anyway, there's just all this symbolism in it, but it just said 8kun. It didn't say like .com, .org, .net, whatever. So people had found out that if you went to 8kun.org, it took you to a site that was called george.news. And I don't know if this is anything, it was just interesting. But, you know, those of us remember that JFK Jr. had a magazine called George, and it really looked like they were referencing that at least. The font even looked similar to the font that was on the George magazine, where the G kind of goes into the E. And if you scroll to the very bottom, it took you to a link that was called the George Shop, and there was a bunch of JFK Jr. stuff and MAGA hats and whatever. And then in the editor's notes, it had 8chan.dev, which took you, if you clicked on it, to qmap.pub. So that was interesting, and I have no idea when it went up. I believe it was up before the tweet went up from 8chan. I have no idea if there's any connection there whatsoever, and it now appears to be down, because I tried going to it a little bit ago, and it was gone. So anyway, that was pretty interesting, and I guess it's going to be coming back up. It looks like they're tweeting for board owners to message them if they want their stuff migrated to this new site. And so I would say maybe within the next week. That's just my speculation. But that's very exciting. I miss my friends. Oh, here we go. Speaker Pelosi resists official impeachment to keep control of the process. So she wants to delay a House vote launching official impeachment proceedings, because then House Republicans could hire new staffers and issue their own subpoenas for witnesses and documents. Theater. It's all theater, it seems, doesn't it? They don't want these official things to go through because they know that there's no basis behind what they are. I mean, they're putting so much emphasis on these whistleblowers when the transcript of the phone is accessible to all of us. We can all read it. What is a better means of understanding what happened in that conversation, the transcript from it, or second or third hand information? So yada yada. Sorry you guys, I'm majorly thirsty. So we have PG&E has cut off power to millions in preparation for the hot, dry, windy weather that's expected to tear through California. And as we recall, the PG&E was responsible supposedly for the Paradise, California fires not even a year ago. And so they're doing this kind of preemptively to make sure that doesn't happen again. It sounds very weird to me. And also, the reports I was seeing was saying 800,000 customers, but in their customers, it doesn't, that actually translates more to 2.5 million people, because their customers account for multiple people. So you're talking about 2.5 million people that are without power, kind of incrementally, I guess, throughout this week. I guess it could go on. And I was remembering weird stuff about PG&E, and I couldn't recall what it was, what their connections to. I remember with the Paradise Fires that there were some strange connections. So I was kind of looking up who owns them, and I don't know if this is the correlation that we were looking at that time, but their top stockholder is Vanguard, and Vanguard's top investors are Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Johnson & Johnson, and Facebook. So real swampy company here. And yeah, it just seems weird. I lived in California my whole life, pretty much, and in an area that was constantly on fire, it seemed, growing up, and I had never heard of this. I've never heard of them turning everybody's power off for, you know, for this issue. And it seems like they could have, yeah, exactly. So, Alan Charles, yes, exactly. So we know that these are like the Amazon companies, and even further down the line, it was the smaller investors are ABC, and so we do know what those are linked to, certain 3-letter agencies. So yeah, that's suspect. So then we have Trump pulling troops out of Syria. That's obviously getting a lot of news. Everybody's all up in arms over it. There have been some big tweets by Trump. I recommend going and checking those out. He's been tweeting up a storm. One of them, he said, the United States, I thought this was really interesting and worth pointing out. The United States has spent $8 trillion fighting and policing in the Middle East. Thousands of our great soldiers have died or been badly wounded. Millions of people have died on the other side. Going into the Middle East is the worst decision ever made in the history of our country. We went to war under a false and now disproven premise, weapons of mass destruction. There were none. So now we're slowly and carefully bringing our great soldiers and military home. Our focus is on the big picture. The USA is greater than ever before. So this was important to me because he is basically pointing out the weapons of mass destruction as a bonus banner that brought us into this mess. Meanwhile, I think it's important to point out, because I'm not seeing a lot of media sources doing this, that he is pulling out a whopping 50 troops. So that was our presence there. And, you know, basically I understand his point in that this is not a war that we're fighting over there. We are basically policing, is the US's job to police the world. So, and again, there might be bigger things in operation here that we just don't know about, and I trust him. We're seeing kind of some of the usual suspects come out against him. Well, obviously the usual suspects are coming out against him. Everybody comes out against him. But, you know, like Ted Cruz, I think, was it Mitch McConnell? Like these people that seem pretty like flip-flop, wishy-washy, that go back and forth on him. Nikki Haley, the former ambassador to the UN. Yeah. They're saying this is a terrible idea and that we're leaving the Kurds, you know, that we are turning our backs on our allies, et cetera, et cetera. He did also say, this is another tweet from him, as I have stated strongly before, and just to reiterate, if Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done before. I'm just laughing at the wording of that, not at the situation. But yeah, I mean, I think something that this president has brought back to this country is strategy. I think that it is a good thing that our president appears to be a loose cannon. I think it is a good thing that he doesn't seem to be willing to, it keeps people on their toes. I think especially with our previous president, they were very trusting that that president was going to bend and cater to their needs, and they had no fear of him. I think it's a good thing for our president to be feared, and I don't know. I'll have to read more about this because I only got to look into it a little bit, but like I said, I trust our president, so we'll see how it goes. I certainly trust him a lot more than Ted Cruz. So here was another interesting thing. I'm sorry I'm not reading your comments, you guys. I'll come back and we'll discuss all this. I just want to be able to get through all of these things quickly because I know a lot of people can't watch when we sit here and chat. So I want to get all of these things out for those people, and then we can talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. So cops in China find 13 tons of gold stashed in ex-mayor's cellar. 13 tons of gold. Chinese authorities found more than 13 tons of gold worth hundreds of millions of dollars in a secret cellar in the home of Zhang Qi, and it wasn't only gold. They also seized more than $37 billion in cash and assets. He is among the latest targets of an ongoing corruption crackdown by Chinese President Xi Jinping, who has had more than 250 formal officials removed for misdeeds in office. That's quite a lot of money and gold. I don't know what that would look like in terms of volume. I'm assuming it would fit in a decent sized cellar. What did they say? Cellar? Yeah. Anyway, that is very interesting. And I put another link below that I came across. I have no idea if this has anything to do with this or not, but it was an interesting article that is about how Russia and China are furiously buying up gold. So I don't know if they're trying to turn their currency into a gold-backed currency. That would not be good for the United States or really anybody else. And I did think it was interesting that, you know, we're getting this news information about this president going after corrupt officials. What does that sound like? We like to hear about that more and more, especially in China, which we'll go into more in a little bit. I have some notes here. I actually didn't put any links to this because it's everywhere. You can find it. The Matt Lauer rape allegations. I read just a little bit of it. This whole, I don't know what to make of it, just because obviously even if there were great articles about it, you still don't know what to make about these things. It's not great to jump to conclusions right away, no matter if it's our guy or not our guy. And yes, I know he works for questionable media, but also something that I linked down below, that I think is interesting to point out here, I don't know if you guys remember, but when he was tasked with interviewing both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton during the last presidential election, he was criticized for coming down really hard on Hillary Clinton and going easy on Donald Trump. So that's interesting. I did put a link below to a video that you can watch on that. And I don't know, we'll see where that goes, but I felt like it was worth mentioning. This is another thing I don't think I put a link in, but Chuck Grassley was tweeting about corn today. And it's been a very interesting thing that we've been watching for a while. A lot of these public officials have been tweeting very strange, cryptic things about corn. There was one by James Comey where he's standing in a cornfield. There was one from, I believe, Devin Nunes where he says something, he says something about the corn is ready to be, like, I don't remember, somebody can help me out with that, for to be harvested or something like that. Just a lot of weird stuff. We've seen weird stuff about corn. We've seen weird stuff about dogs. That seems to be, I'm guessing these are communications with each other, but I have no idea. All I know is that they seem very cryptic and like this is code for something because they make absolutely no sense. And also fish. There have been a lot of tweets recently by, you know, like the White House and certain military Twitter accounts talking about fish and fishing, and we know that those are terms that Q has pointed to before too. So I'm interested to see what you guys say about that, but we'll come back to that. I just wanted to point it out really quickly. Oh, Ellen and George Bush. Again, I don't have a link for you on this, but this is everywhere. George Bush and Ellen were seen canoodling. No, they weren't. I don't even know. I think that means they were making out. They weren't making out. God, gross. At a baseball game, they were like having fun to get together, and people were confused, yada yada. Then Ellen comes out and says, you know, gosh, we have to be kind and loving to all people. And I was watching actually a really great point by, you know, Robot Interiors, my buddy on Instagram. That's her account name, Robot Interiors. She does great work. If you guys are on Instagram and you don't already follow her, go check her out. I saw a tweet that she put out today where she made a really good point about how this is almost like a covert, I mean, because you really need to understand that Ellen and George Bush, while on the surface are, you know, two different sides, they are actually the same exact thing. The more you dive into this and go into the WikiLeaks emails and search for Ellen, and you'll see what I mean. Bring up some of the emails having to do with her. Anyway, and so what was Robot Interior's point? It was something like, you know, they want to say, thank you so much. I know I'm trying to do more shows during the, I'm like trying to settle right now solidly on at least one, but eventually like get to two probably pretty soon here. Thank you very much. Anyway, so that basically they are coming out to say, you know, we need to be kind to all people no matter what their beliefs are and yada, 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 which once we know that these two people are basically the same thing, and also keeping in mind that good people already do that, and also keeping in mind that Ellen came out and said that she wouldn't have Donald Trump on her show. So is that being kind to all people no matter what their beliefs? I don't think so. Basically saying that they're kind of prepping the psyche for some of the disgusting things that we're going to find out about these people, and trying to get us to accept the idea of being kind and accepting to people with all beliefs. And certainly there are a couple things that I can think of that I will never be accepting of. One of them is pedophilia. Yeah, use your imagination. Anyway, I thought that was interesting and something to touch on. Adam Schiff claims whistleblower is getting death threats. Adam Schiff must have forgotten that the whistleblower is still anonymous. So whatever. That was all I had about that. We have an article then, Mueller lied under oath. This is self-explanatory, but you guys can read the article. He lied under oath about, he said he was not pursuing the FBI director job when he went and met with President Trump in May of 2017. But we have now, we have Trump administration officials coming out with documents that prove otherwise. So not only did he lie under oath, he lied under oath in front of everybody. We all watched it televised. So we'll see what happens with that. Some Jeffrey Epstein news with Jean-Luc Brunel. I remember I was saying last week or the week before, I was hearing he was dead. Well, that's not true. He's alive, apparently. But he was missing, or people were saying he had fled. But this article is that he's now cooperating with prosecutors in Paris on their investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein, and also into him. Jeff, thank you so much. Cannibalism, exactly. That is another thing that I will never get used to, nor be kind and friendly to people that practice that. Okay, so Brunel is also the subject of a police probe himself after 3 women came forward with allegations of sexual assault and harassment. There was a former Dutch model who told authorities in August that she was raped by Brunel as a teenager. His former modeling agency, which is Karen Models, was raided last week by authorities, and apparently Brunel has fled to Brazil. That's what it looks like. There were quotes from Virginia Roberts. I think that would be Virginia Roberts Guffrey, if I am remembering correctly. She would be the most, I'd say, high profile of the accusers coming out against Jeffrey Epstein. She said, quote, he would bring young girls ranging from ages as young as 12 to the United States for sexual purposes and farm them out to his friends. He would offer the girls, quote, modeling jobs. Many of the girls came from poor countries or impoverished backgrounds, and he lured them in with the promise of making good money. Epstein at one point gave Brunel $1 million to launch a new modeling agency in the United States. That investment earned Epstein a steady supply of underage girls, barf, as many as 1,000 who were procured by Brunel, often by bringing minor victims from Europe to the United States. and offering them a model contract through Karen and another agency, MC2, which is interesting because if my memory serves me correctly, I think Q had also pointed out E equals MC squared, which MC2 and Epstein equals MC. I think maybe at that time they were trying to point us at this modeling agency, MC2, and tell us that this was Epstein's operation of trafficking these girls, or part of it. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. Okay, almost through all of these whatchamacallits. Anti-Trump whistleblower attorney worked directly for James Clapper, we're now finding out. That is also self-explanatory, you can read that below. But I did also put a link to, was it last night or the night before, James Clapper was on CNN, and it must have been, yeah, and completely threw Obama under the bus. He said, basically he said, Obama made us do it. This is a quote from him. It's kind of disconcerting how now to be investigated for, you know, having done our duty and done what we were told to do by the president, meaning investigating, spying on Trump. So that's kind of funny. Oh, another thing that I didn't put in here. Do I want to talk about that? Maybe not. Mythical, corn, NROC equals NROC, National Reconnaissance Organization Command. Interesting. Cool. Okay, former intelligence officer convicted of attempted espionage sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. We've got a former Defense Intelligence Agency officer, Ron Rockwell Hansen, 60 years old, of Syracuse, Utah, was arrested June 2nd. Wait, what? Why do I have this? What? I don't know why I have this. Disregard that guy. Well, I mean, don't disregard it. I must have come across that for a reason, but this article was from June 2nd, or the arrest happened in 2018. Anyway, interesting. I wonder why I came across that, why I had that in my notes. I'm telling you guys, I'm all over the place today. But anyway, check it out. This was interesting and current, timely. Arizona County assessor is indicted in adoption fraud scheme after, quote, illegally flying women from the Marshall Islands to the U.S. for 4 years so they could give birth and hand the babies over to American parents. Chris, thank you so much. Thank God for rising up warriors in these times to fight this evil. Thank you for your hard work, opening eyes, waking people up. Kate and Edge of Wonder. Thank you so much, Chris. So, Paul Peterson, who is licensed in Utah and Arizona, allegedly ran the adoption law practice in Mesa, falsely claiming women were Arizona residents. He charged $40,000 per adoption and was said to have paid for women to live in his home before placing their babies with adoptive families. Peterson faces charges of conspiracy, theft, forgery, and fraudulent schemes. Also, 11 felonies, including communications fraud, human smuggling, and sale of a child. He was said to have run the adoption law practice in Mesa for 4 years, falsely claiming the women were Arizona residents using the state's Medicaid system. So he was fraudulently representing these women as living in Arizona or the United States in order to obtain medical services by the healthcare cost containment system. So a couple things here. One is, I hope that there is a way to check on these children that were supposedly adopted by these families. Another thing that I came across was, because this investigation actually started in Hawaii. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Marshall Islands, but they're kind of like Hawaii would be halfway between California and the Marshall Islands. They're just like out there in the middle of the ocean pretty much. So this investigation had started in Hawaii, and I actually came across somebody that I follow today from Hawaii who was saying that it's been kind of a something that people in Hawaii talk about, that they have kind of known that the Marshall Islands were used as a breeding ground for human trafficking. So I really hope that there, like I said, there's some way to check on these children, but that is incredibly sick. and I'm glad that they got this guy. In more cheerful news, the United Nations is on track to run out of money by the end of the month. United Nations is running a deficit of $230 million, Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on Monday, and may run out of money by the end of October. Cool. Well, I put a graphic below that I came across of somebody I followed on Twitter with a chart of the largest UN funders, and basically the US is #1 by far. They contribute more than the next 3 nations, which I believe is UK, I forgot, whatever, you guys can look, more than the next 3 combined. So yeah, I'm hoping we give not another penny to the UN. Let's watch that dry up. That would be cool. Counterterrorism analyst arrested for leaking to 2 journalists. So Wednesday's move is the latest in a series of prosecutions during the Trump administration of government employees accused of sharing classified information with the media. Henry Kyle Freese, which he goes by Kyle Freese, I guess, 30 years old, who had top secret clearance, accessed classified intelligence reports about foreign countries' weapon systems last year and provided them to 2 unidentified journalists. Well, I have them identified. They were Amanda Macias, a national security reporter for CNBC, and Courtney Cube, with a K, a national security reporter for NBC. So these were the 2 broads that he gave this information to, and apparently he was having a romantic relationship with one of them. He was apparently caught red-handed, disclosing sensitive national security information for personal gain. We've seen this before. I don't know if possibly this is a tactic that these media are using now, employing, you know, these young women. I almost said attractive, but I haven't seen them, so I don't know. Possibly they're attractive. Anyway, he faces up to 10 years in prison if he's convicted. Oh, I'm on my last thing. Cool. I have the last thing was just a cool, but also got to keep in mind how they are running these things now. It's a UFO, a video of a UFO that was put out by Fox News yesterday or the day before, and it was taken on a ferry in North Carolina's Outer Banks. And it's interesting, they're like on this ferry in the middle of the ocean, and the guy is showing you the ocean back and forth. He's like, there's nothing out here, what is this? And it's like 14 glowing lights. So while it's cool to see these UFOs in the mainstream media, we also know that these are kind of soft disclosure things. I think just, you know, breaking us off little pieces when they have way more information that they could be giving us. And also we need to be wary that they are not going to take these and manipulate us with them. And by that I mean, you know, don't ever let them scare you into thinking that we're being invaded or whatever. And I don't know if they're just trying to wake people up slowly or what the deal is with that, but yeah, you guys can check that out. So those are all the things I have for you guys as far as my my headlines. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about Disclosure Con in Pine Top this weekend. It was really awesome. I felt it was a really cool experience. I had a lot of fun. There were some really cool speakers there that I got to listen to, and I met some just incredible people. It's interesting when you go to things like this, how much you learn from, you know, anybody that you really take the time to speak to. There were a lot of people that, like, some of this, the most that I learned were actually from people that weren't speakers, that were just there to watch like I was. And there were, so Edge of Wonder was speaking there. They gave a really incredible talk on China. I learned a lot that scared me. And who else was there? Laura Eisenhower. There was Brad Olson. He just got back from a trip from Antarctica. He had some really interesting information. Brooks Agnew. I'm forgetting a lot of people, but it was a really cool conference, and it was really intimate. At the end of the 2 days, they did this kind of fireside chat where everybody got to kind of speak together, and that was really lovely. It was nice to hear just everybody's experience with where they are in all of this, in the disclosure of information and waking up, and you know, it was cool. Very, very cool. Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, it was out in Pine Top, Arizona. I did a live with Rob and Ben on Edge of Wonder on Friday, I guess it was. Yeah, it was Friday. That was a lot of fun. People were kind of thank you. Truth is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much. So yeah, that was fun. Those guys are very good people and fun to talk to always, and we always have fun conversations, and people were getting on my case because I was holding my phone the whole time, and I just want to let you guys know that I was just trying to read the chat because I have very bad vision. I actually just realized that I have one eye that is completely far-sighted and one eye that is completely nearsighted, so it's no wonder I can't see a ding-dang thing. Tiffany Fitzhenry was just on, quite frankly, a couple hours ago. Check it out on YouTube. Oh, I will do that. Awesome. Tiffany Fitzhenry just put out a really great, well, she puts out a bunch of great threads, but I was reading one of her threads earlier today. What was it about? It'll come to me. Yes, I was not texting. I was reading the chat. I was trying to see what people were saying so I could respond. And yes. Look up Bates method to fix my eyes. Interesting. The frustrating thing is that I had LASIK and my eyes weren't even that bad when I had the LASIK, and I feel like that was a really bad idea for me because my eyes got way worse when I had the LASIK. I know people that had LASIK and it completely changed their lives for the better, but that was not the case for me. My eyes got way worse, so I don't see the left waking up. I'm a lifelong liberal. In 2017, I re-registered as no political affiliation. I try to explain and show proof to people, and I'm just called a Russian bot propagandist. Yes, I feel you on that, and I get called a bot a lot too, but keep in mind those might just be bots calling you bots. And also, I agree with you. I look at things and I feel like there are just some people that we'll just never get through to, but I do believe that there are some things that are so massive that it would change the minds of just about anybody. So keep the faith. Are you going to celebrate your first 10,000 subs? Yes, I was actually going to bring that up because I can't think of something to do, but I definitely would like to do something. I'm kind of close to hitting 10,000 subs. Actually, I feel like I've been there for a while, but I'm being massively throttled. And the first day of Disclosure Con, they actually had a panel with a bunch of the speakers talking about just that, being censored. And it was really eye-opening to just see how it's happening to everybody. And also, not only we know that it's happening, but also I think it's quite telling to look at the numbers and see the money loss that platforms like YouTube are losing by doing this. And that makes absolutely no sense when you're coming from a standpoint of this being a business. And why else would they be doing it? Why else would they be I mean, they lost like how many, was it millions or billions in the first quarter, and then they went back and did it again the next quarter. So it's not even like they did it to see how it would go, and then they saw that they lost those billions of dollars and they're like, oh, that was a terrible idea, and then they changed it. No, they doubled down. So there has to be a reason that they're throttling voices like mine, like everybody that was on that panel, basically anybody that's labeled a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, something's got to give. But anyway, YouTube is owned by Google. So, which is interesting because Google is the #1 search engine in the world, and then YouTube is #2. So basically, the two biggest avenues where people get their information or search for information are owned by the same people that have the same agenda. Thank you, Paul. Oh, hi, Paul. Yeah, I met a lot of really great people this weekend, and I'm sad that I didn't get a lot of time to talk to most of them. So I have to get better at or I mean, I need to get back into getting through like correspondence, my emails and stuff like that. Ever since I went to Europe and came back, I have not caught up. So if you're one of those people that's emailed me in the last couple weeks and I haven't got back to you, please know that I will, and it's just taking me a while to get back into everything. Conspiracy theorist equals critical thinker. Pardon me while I take a drink. Who owns Google? Alphabet, correct, right? That's right. Sorry, I'm a really loud drinker. Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks again, love all you do. Stay up, stay positive, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Much more at stake for these people than money. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Thanks, Rob. I know. I can't help it. I have a small trachea. Ruth, who are we talking about? RGB? Is that what you're asking about? I think it was Jordan Sather who said something to the effect of, we wouldn't have all these conspiracy theorists if people just believe what they were told on TV. And isn't that the problem? Isn't that exactly why they want to label us something? Sorry, woo! Loud gulps don't impress me, loud burps do. Well, you are in for a treat. Maybe that's what I'll do to celebrate 10,000 subscribers. I'm ready for 8kun and our favorite Anon to get started again. I am ready too. That'll be so exciting. And yeah, I was actually really missing it today because I was searching for a particular meme, but I ended up finding it anyway. I think Trump winning 2020 is the key to everything. He has to tread water to a certain degree on big arrests, etc., until he wins. Yep, we will see. I keep seeing more and more of these polls put out by people that are just getting completely taken over by MAGA, and I think it's really funny. They're not going the direction that they think they're going to go, and that's very hopeful for me because we know that we've got everything going against us when it comes to social media, you know, particularly Twitter, where I'm seeing these polls. And it's very hopeful to me to see that we're even making a dent in these polls because they do have the ability to completely just manipulate them. 8kun Apache server is responding and ready to load. Yeah, Rosie had one the other day. It was great. Exactly. And she ended up deleting it. What a dum-dum. What a dumbus. We assume that when 8chan comes back, that so will Q, but there's no guarantee of this, is there? That's a great question. There is not a guarantee that Q will come back. I would not be surprised either way if Q comes back or if they don't. At this point, Q has said to us so many times, you have more than you know, and I'm seeing people go back and reread a lot of the Q drops and finding that we do have more than we even realized. And so it's possible that we already have everything we need. The ball is rolling and we're on our way, and we've got more and more people every day are tuning into this kind of information, waking up, understanding what's going on with the media and this theater that we're seeing with our politicians, and looking for information themselves. And I think that even if Q doesn't come back, we're in good shape. We're fine. Although I wish they would, just because it's so much fun. And who doesn't want more guidance? We could always use more guidance. We are the news now. Yep. And, you know, ultimately, the point is to get us on our own. You know, once you take the training wheels off, you don't put them back on again. The point is to get us up and running on our own. I don't think we will ever find out who the Q team is, maybe. I don't know. Like, in my mind, I've got this fantasy of like the end of Star Wars when they're like giving the awards out. That's like what I picture, like all the Anons and like, you know, General Flynn and like Trump is there, and like wouldn't that just be marvelous? And we get to find out who Q is, and like Q's like a gray alien or something like that. It would be cool. Or like a Wookiee. Yeah, maybe Q's a Wookiee. It's my fantasy. So it could be whatever I want. But that's, you know, who wouldn't want it to be that? Of course we want to know who Q is. But I understand why it's a possibility that we would never find out. And I'm cool with that too. Okay, we've got a troll. Goodbye. I will help you with that little issue you have there. They pulled the mask off Q like it's Scooby-Doo episode. Yeah, but that was always the bad guy. What's up with the group Fine Young Cannibals? I didn't even bat an eye at their name back then. Yeah, I didn't either. But weren't they the ones that got busted for being, they didn't sing any of their music? So yeah. They were cannibalizing somebody else's voice. We have the same fantasy, good to know. Yes. Some of the things Q mentioned are still coming to light. Yes, exactly. Most of the things Q mentioned are still coming to light. We're still finding that even things that came to light have double meanings, and even more things are linked to the same Q drops. So it's like never ending. It's like the never ending gift. I feel like we could be going through and researching the Q drops we already have for years and years, and still finding more connections and more things to learn from them. So if you, hi Laura, if you are new to Q, or even if you're not, take this time to go through old Q drops, and you might be the, you might be the one to discover something that somebody else hasn't. I know that we think of like the Anons as being this group of people that research, and they are, but those people are just like you and me. And you might have a certain perspective that you can offer to some of these Q drops that nobody else has had, or that nobody has had and come forward with. So don't ever feel like you don't have something to contribute. I mean, that could be one thing that, everybody's always kind of, it was one of the things that they talked about at the end of the Disclosure Con, was what people can do to be a part of this and help wake people up. The answer for everybody is not to start a YouTube channel, although it is cool for, if you feel like that's your calling, the more voices, the better. I know I always say that, but that's not everybody's cup of tea. You might contribute in another way that nobody's thought of yet. So I'm always thinking in terms of, what we can do. Another thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting, somebody talked about, somebody stood up, and if you're watching, I would love for you to email me and talk. I wanted to go up to you and talk to you about this then, but I just didn't get the time, and I'd love to talk to you about this further. But somebody stood up and was talking about how they had a background kind of in mental health, and that they were thinking of ways that they could contribute and help people go through their awakening process. Obviously, there's a very dark element to that, and helping people through it was actually something that I felt was my calling in the very beginning. Before I ever decided that I was going to start a YouTube channel, when I was researching all of this and really feeling like I was activated and not knowing what to do with it, I've got a background in hypnotherapy, and I was kind of like, well, something that I could do is help people through this awakening process and get through the really dark stuff. But then I also, it didn't seem like it was time. There weren't enough people at that point that I could connect with and really reach out to one-on-one and help in that way, and so that wasn't. But something that I have since learned, which I think is really kind of profound and interesting, is that while some of this stuff is really deep and dark and depressing, I think people are going to naturally get through it on their own. Once upon a time, I really thought we're going to need to set up like this triage center, like triage centers everywhere to help these people through this information. But number one, I think subconsciously we already know about it. And so in one hand, being able to confront it straight, like head on, is therapeutic in itself. But also, when I think about the most depressed people, the saddest people, it really doesn't have anything, it has so much less to do with people's circumstances and more to do with their perspective. And the one thing that they have in common is that their focus is very small and mostly on themselves. You could be a millionaire and be miserable, or you could be, you know, you could have a very, you know, meager lifestyle and be super happy, depending on where your focus is. If your focus is just on yourself and your life, you could acquire really anything that you set your mind to and still be miserable. And really, when you start to put your focus on bigger issues and outside of yourself, when you start working for the greater good of humanity or whatever it is, and the focus comes off of you, it really almost is a natural way of lifting your depression, I think. When you are working, all of these people that I know that are, you know, even the anonymous people online that are just tweeting about this stuff, they are working so hard to expose these things. And even though it's dark information, they are being selfless, they're being heroic, and that is better than any antidepressant that you could ever take. So yeah, I think it's, even though it's dark, we go through this stuff and we find out what's happening on our planet, and it's disgusting. And by the way, the other day I came across the video again of, if you guys have seen it, it's the Call Me Father video. John Podesta, Call Me Father. To those of you who haven't, maybe don't go searching for it, because it is probably the hardest thing I've come across. And I came across it the other day and just started sobbing again. That was one of the things that got me the first time. It was one of the things I landed on right at the end of my beginning research that I talked about, the pizza fence research that destroyed me. And once again, it destroyed me, because I don't think it will ever not destroy me. But again, watching that, after I quit sobbing, I had this renewed sense of resolve. I was just like, you know, in doing this, I know it's goofy, it's a YouTube channel, I sit here and I talk about things that are way over my head, and I get criticized for things, and this is not what I had envisioned for my life at this age. But you know, I can focus on, I know what I'm doing, as far as I know what I'm trying to do, and I'm not going to be shaken from that. But every once in a while I will, you know, forget, or it becomes a little harder to sit down and do the work that is involved with doing this channel. But coming across that again just completely renewed my resolve in this. And I don't care how many bots they attack my channel with, or how many subscribers they delete. I don't care if I'm sitting here talking to one person or myself hoping that somebody will come across this. I'm not going to stop. So thank you. Midnight Blue. Waiting for Q comms, but you and Edge of Wonder is very appreciated info. Keep on trucking, little sister. Thank you so much. That's really cute. Thank you. And we will keep on trucking. Pizza G research bent my mind in a very bad way. I was a patrol commander for 2 decades, and that turned me into an anon. Wow. Wow. Yeah, you know what? I had a couple other people that I met this weekend, similar things. I met so many interesting people, you know, older, super spiritual, almost like hippie-ish people, and ex-military who are like boots on the ground, seeing these things firsthand and being completely activated too. We're about to be interrupted, I believe. Can I help you?
Yes.
What do you need?
I am still hungry.
You're still hungry?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be out in just a second.
Okay, I love you.
Okay, love you too. Close the door behind you. Sorry. Anyway, you know, that's really encouraging to see a lot of, oh, okay, nope, out please. 3, 2,
1.
Yep. Thank you. You know, people from all different backgrounds coming into this and feeling like I'm here, I want to help. Okay, what do I do? That's really encouraging and happy to me. I love that you guys are so understanding of my child coming in and stealing the show. Then it's not about any of us anymore, is it? Yep, I was counting. Mom trick. It works really well, actually. And my brother taught me a good thing, because I used to count up. I used to go 1, and he knew, like, hoping that he knew I was, but my brother was like, well, no, you've got to count backwards, so there's like a finite ending, so he knows at 1, he's going to get in trouble. So now I count backwards, 3, 2, 1, and I never have to make it to 1. Cool trick. That and popsicles. Bribery. Right there is why I cried my eyes out from that video. How can you not adore kids and protect them? Thank you for saying that. And exactly. I love you for saying that. And I love every bit of you who are here and talking about this stuff and exposing this stuff. And I don't know why that's hitting me right now. I'm really sorry, you guys. I don't know why that's hitting me right now, but I do get hit with it. Not typically when I'm talking to you guys. This actually isn't so weird, because I'm a very emotional person. Just I tend not to do it on here, but it does hit me every once in a while. The beauty of all of these people coming together, and like when, like that was a man that just said that. When people attack men, and we see that a bunch of people attacking men. You know what I'm talking about. Doesn't it show so much how we should have so much appreciation for the men who are protectors, which I believe men really are. And, you know, that men they are stronger, they are more powerful, they do have the ability to hurt, but yeah, so what? We see so much beauty from these people that want to protect. I believe that's why we're all here. I think that when it comes down to it, that's why we're all so passionate about this. Yeah, we're interested in like the UFOs, the ET stuff. We're interested in like what's really going on with our politicians, whatever, what's really going on in the world. But really when it comes down to it, I think that a lot of us are just really driven by wanting to protect children and what's happening in the world. I just had a whole death scene play out in front of me. Okay, can you go out, please?
I'm dead.
I know, babe. Can you go out just for 2 more minutes, okay? I promise. Anyway, I think that's what I've got for you. Yeah, I don't think I'm fixing this. So I think we'll end it there, guys. But thank you so much. I love you guys, and and I shall be back.